Okay, good afternoon, and welcome to the public hearing for the 2021-2022 budget for Fairfield County School District. We are doing a virtual public hearing this evening. And so we'll have a slide presentation this afternoon for you. And if there are any comments, any questions can be placed in the chat, and we'll try to address those. There is a slight lag, so from the time you type any questions, it will take a few seconds for us to be able to see them and respond to them. And with that, we'll get started with the public hearing. Okay, to begin with, just wanted to give a little information regarding the sources of revenue that we have in our general fund and our budget, because this will serve as a basis to provide you with some background as to the revenues that we have as a district and the expenditures. Primarily, we have 5 categories of revenue. And the first one we have, which is our largest one, we have our local tax revenues. And that's primarily revenue that's generated from millage on non-owner occupied residents and other properties. So in other words, if you are a residential owner and it's your primary residence within the county, there is no millage charge for our operational portion of our budget. But the majority of the millage is generated for then all non-residential, non-owner occupied properties. And that is the largest source of revenue that we have. We also have state reimbursements, and we receive money from the state for property taxes that are not actually required to be paid due to state legislation. So there are some categories in which the state years ago decided to relieve property tax owners of paying the taxes. And in lieu of the property tax owners paying certain taxes, then that money actually comes from the state of South Carolina for the school district. We also have the Educational Finance Act. The school district receives funds from what's called the EFA, or Education Finance Act. Oftentimes you'll hear legislators or educators talk about the state per pupil funding. And basically the district receives money based on the number of students that we have, but also students are assigned certain categories, and those categories have certain weightings. And depending on those weightings, we receive money from the state for those students. Then we also have money that's generated through the Education Improvement Act, and that assists the district with the cost of some salaries and benefits. And our final category, which I refer to as other, we have transfers that come from funds that come from other resources and that we're able to transfer into our general fund. And so next we'll look at the actual revenue for the year. On the left-hand side, under what says FY 2021 budget, that's the budget that we're operating under for this current fiscal year, because the current fiscal year's budget was actually rolled over from FY 2021. So on the left-hand side of the column, we have the budget that we're operating under for this year. On the right-hand side of the column, where we have FY 21-22, you will see the budget that we're proposing, and this is just our revenue right now, on the right-hand side. So our original budget, currently, that we budgeted for revenue is $45,265,101. Currently, for the next school year, we're proposing a budget of $43,393,496. And that is a significant drop of approximately $1.9 million. And we will get into the reasons for that here shortly. The primary reason, if you look at under the first line where we have tax revenues and reimbursements, you'll see that from our local property tax revenues in the current fiscal year, we budgeted $30.1 million. Next year, we're anticipating property tax revenue of approximately $26.3 million. So that accounts for the reason why our drop is so significant, simply because of the fact that our revenues are not going to be as large as we anticipated previously due to a drop in property tax values for some of our larger taxpayers within the county. And that really is what is attributable to the reduction in revenue that we are proposing for next year. We are not proposing a millage increase, a tax increase. So currently the millage is 203.1 mils. We are proposing the same amount for our operational millage for the fiscal 21-22 year. And there are some other slight changes. The state reimbursements that we receive from the state, currently we're projecting that to be 3.1 million. For next year, there will be a slight increase to 3.2 million. And that's primarily the changes under the tax revenues and reimbursements. If we move to the next category, which is the Education Financed Act, we're anticipating a drop from about $3.4 million to about $3.3 million next year. And under our state salary and fringe reimbursements, that's the money that we receive to help offset the cost of the district's salaries and benefits. In the current year, we budgeted for approximately $4 million. Next year, we're anticipating about $4,274,000. So there'll be a slight uptick for those reimbursements to help offset the cost of salaries and benefits. The final category that we have the other category, which represents transfers. In the current year, we budgeted for $2.1 million in transfers. And for the next fiscal year, we're looking at approximately $3.8 million of transfers. The transfers, the biggest difference is that in the current year, we budgeted $1 million to be taken out of our fund balance, the fund balance being the amount of money that we've been able to accumulate through budget surpluses through the past few years. So in this current year, we budgeted for $1 million to come out of that fund balance to help balance the budget. Next year, we are proposing a budget of $2.6 million to come out of the fund balance to help balance the budget. And one of the reasons for that, again, with the reduction in property tax revenue, we have to have another source of funds in order to balance our budget. Well, I want to talk now about the general fund expenditures in our budget. And so before we get into the numbers, I'll just run through some of the categories of expenditures that we have in the school district. The largest category would be salaries and benefits. Most of our expenditures in the district are for personnel. Therefore, salaries and benefits really is about 80% of our entire budget. And the cost for salaries and benefits includes a few line items that a lot of people probably are not familiar with. So not only do we have to pay salaries, but the school district is required to pay our portion of employee benefits as well. So for example, for retirement, employees have retirement withheld as a deduction from their pay, but the school district also has to pay roughly 22% in retirement cost for every dollar we pay. And so that increases the benefits cost for the district. Also, the district is required to pay the district's portion of health insurance for our employees. And so those are, and of course, we also have Social Security. There's a district portion as well that we have to pay. And that really adds on, once we add up all of the benefits, the total cost of benefits in terms of percentage can range anywhere from approximately 30% upwards to 40%, depending on the type of health insurance plan that the employee has. So in other words, for every dollar that we pay in salary, we will have an additional approximately 30 to 40 cents that we have to pay in benefits for our employees. Some of the other categories we have purchase services. This includes services that are provided to the district. We pay property insurance. We have consultants that we use. Also included in this category are water and sewer cost and travel. Then we have the next category, supplies and materials, which includes just general supplies, whether it be janitorial supplies, school supplies, books, but we also have our energy costs for electricity and heating. And those are two major costs that we also include under supplies and materials. And finally, we also have other objects, which usually is for any types of dues or fees, but also transfers. And the most significant transfer expenditure that we have is for a transfer that we have to pay to Chester School District for some of the students in this area under an agreement that actually attend schools in Chester. Now, in terms of the numbers for our budget, we have a chart that shows the comparison from the current year. Again, that's going to be listed as the fiscal year 2020-21 budget. And then we have the budget that we're proposing for next year, which is the fiscal 21-22 budget. The major difference in the numbers really is in the first category, which is in our salaries and benefits. And we're proposing to have a decrease in salaries and benefits of approximately $1.8 million. That decrease is due to the fact that we sometimes have some positions in the budget that are vacant with the intent on filling those positions. And due to the revenue decrease, we have decided not to fill certain positions. Therefore, those vacancies are not included in the budget. The other reason there's a decrease is that we intend on funding some of our salary positions along with the associated benefits out of federal funds for the upcoming year. And so as a result, the cost of salaries and benefits in the general fund is lower than it would typically be because we're moving some of those salaries and benefits into some of our federal funds. Most of the other categories, such as purchase services and supplies and materials, really don't have much of a change at all. Those categories probably have changed because in our departments and schools, as they're doing their budget, they've reshuffled some of those categories. So there's no real major changes there or in any of the other categories that we have. So the decrease again for our expenditures is primarily due to the decrease in salaries and benefits. Now, that does not mean that the raises that typically are given to employees will be impacted. So for the upcoming year, we are planning on having increases per state legislation for our teachers. We do not have a finalized teacher salary schedule per the state. Typically, the state produces a minimum salary schedule that will include a certain percentage raise for teachers. That has not been finalized, but we have included raises for teachers based on the preliminary information that we have. So those categories will go up. Also, for all of our non-teaching personnel, we plan to give what's called a step raise, which means that employees will move up one additional step on the salary scale. So even though the salaries and benefits are going down, there are raises that are included in the budget for all of our personnel. And again, this chart just shows some of the things I've discussed regarding the decrease in salaries, that we've eliminated some vacant positions. We'll be funding some positions out of grant funds, that teachers will be paid on the teacher salary schedule once that has been finalized, and also addresses the classified and administrative staff that we're proposing they will receive a step increase based on the salary schedule. Also, we do anticipate that our health insurance and retirement costs will increase. And when I say increase, I mean for the district. I'm not referring to the cost for the employees that's deducted from their pay. The district portion, we do anticipate increases there. And finally, once again, we do plan right now to have the bonuses that we've done for recruitment and retention for our employees. That is included in our budget next year as well. And once again, we're planning for bonuses of $5,000 for certified staff and $3,000 for our classified staff. And as I've mentioned, not much of a change in purchase services or supplies and materials. So in essence, the overview of the budget is that there will be no millage increase. Currently, the millage is 203.1 mills. We do plan on or proposing that it stay at 203.1. The proposed budget for the next fiscal year is $1.9 million lower than the current year. One of the reasons it's lower is the property tax revenue we anticipate to be $3.8 million lower than it has been due to a decrease in the property tax base. And our salaries and benefits will be $1.9 million lower in terms of the overall cost due to not filling vacancies and funding some positions out of grant funding. And we are also proposing to use an additional $1.6 million from our fund balance next year to help balance the budget. And that is it for my presentation for our public hearing for the fiscal 21-22 year. Just see if we had any comments, questions in the chat. And I do not see any. So with that, we will conclude the public hearing for Fairfield County School District for the FY 21-22 budget. Thank you very much.